And welcome, folks, to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And, folks, we got a couple of things we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about the State of the Union speech last night, and we're going to talk about Brandon Johnson being down in ODC on the hot seat. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know you're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. I'm your host. Come on in. Thank you. Y'all come on in. And folks, first let me give all praises to God and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ of Nazareth for making it possible for me to be here, and welcome to the show. Well, to the American people and patriots across this country, to those who watched the State of the Union address last night, I loved it. Because President Trump had an opportunity to tell and show the American people exactly what he has been doing in the past 6 weeks. And he's covered so much ground. He's done so many things. He's ended the wars. I mean, you name it, in 6 weeks, he has done it. And the Democratic Party and representatives from those Democratic cities, y'all elected them, had the nerve just to sit there, not applaud. Instead, they showed just how treasonous and how much they hate this country. Because what the president is doing, he's finding wasteful spending. He's removing all the illegals out of the country. He's creating economic development. Man, people are investing into the country. In these past couple of weeks, Mexico is even talking about working with some people to get the car dealership here. I mean, it's just going on. He is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. So this first State of the Union speech should have been something that Democrats and Republicans should have been happy about, because he's actually saving the taxpayers' money. He's moving this economy forward. He is doing what he said he was going to do. And yet the display that the Democratic Party showed last night was pure hatred for America. They hate the fact that we have this freedom of speech, the right to bear arms. What I saw last night from the Democratic Party was treasonous, because everything President Trump has done has the approval of the United States citizens. And yet the Democrats sit there and vote against everything that he's done that could be positive for us. And they're saying that, let me get my guest in here. Hey, Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me okay? Just checking.
I got you now. And also my first host of the most. What's up, Mr. Binky? What's going on, old hippie? Listen, guys. Okay, so I'm going to play some of the speech, the President Trump speech, but I want to set it up for our listeners, to the American people and patriots across this country. We have to really understand one thing. Now that the cover is off, the gloves are off, guys, we see exactly what the Democratic Party is about. And it's not about the American people. It's about standing control, stealing money, being corrupt. Doc, your thought on that State of the Union speech last night?
Well, it was very inspiring because of all of the things they've been able to do in just 6 weeks. That's a short amount of time. And really, is your to your point, pulling back the cover of what people thought what he couldn't do, right? And
Yes.
he could. I mean, just within a few days, he literally shut down the border, got the criminals arrested, got them deported. Well, we were told for 4 years that there was nothing that they could do. And it was really a slap in the face, in my opinion, with the Democratic Party to just sit there and be so partisan, even in events where people lost their lives to
Mm-hmm.
their policies. And they could not stand up to say, okay, at least you're fixing it so where these things never happen again. I was like, Lincoln Riley, she's from Georgia. She's from my state.
Right.
There's a bill named after her because if that person who crossed our border illegally had not been released from New York,
Yes.
they wouldn't have gotten here to Georgia. And he shouldn't even have to put these measures in place because we have a sovereign border. We are a sovereign nation. And it's sad that we have to do double work, right, in order to protect ourselves. But the Democratic Party has shown they don't care.
Mr. Binky, what you think?
Well, I think the Democrats are just a total embarrassment. You
Yeah.
know, the only thing they had their little paddles there with Elon steals and false and this and that. All that was is they expected Trump to fix all the screw ups of the Democratic Party for 4 years in 30 days.
Right.
Yes.
And that's what they were projecting as Trump isn't doing nothing. Well, like you said, he's brought in almost $1 trillion of foreign investments so far.
Yes. Yes.
And that's going to take time for that to create jobs and add to the market. So they were an embarrassment. And like you said, and both of you said, this was a stunt.
Yes, it was.
It was an embarrassment. And I don't know how anybody could be proud voting for a Democrat after you've seen that.
No.
And you know what, too? That's so true, Mr. Binky, because, the whole time when they stole that election, they kept trying to force President Trump to say that the elections was legal, that they were fair. He just needs to just go ahead on and admit it, that the elections was fair and legal, and we didn't steal it. He just needs to accept the fact of that. But look what happened. We had our new election. He won by a super landslide, and they still are coming against him. I mean, to the Democrats, the war is over. You lost. Accept the responsibility and accept and be accountable for what you did 4 years ago. The past 4 years have been treasonous. Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, all of these Democratic leaders from the past who were oligarchs, because see, Joe was not capable of running the country. So this was Barack Obama's third term. And look what he did from the time that he had his 8 years when he instituted this woke culture. He completely changed the outlook of the American citizens. And this was the culmination of it with his third term through Joe Biden. Look at all the corruption, the fraud. I mean, everything that people that they've been saying, and I have to say it, they were saying, oh, we're the Republicans, they steal, they do big deals. Everything that the Democrats are saying about somebody else are the actual things that they're doing themselves.
Yeah. Truthfully, it's sad, that our president had to go on camera and say what Doge had found. They've tried to laugh it off. They're like,
Yeah.
ha, 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 you're finding these Social Security numbers with people over 150 years old. People need to realize Social Security's only been in place for 90 years.
Yes.
Grandmother will be 95 years old, Lord bless and said thanks, right? 90 years. And we got people over 150 years old receiving Social Security. Really?
I mean, we have people that were 200 years old that are still receiving Social Security checks.
There's no
And
way.
yep. I mean, when he broke it down last night, he said people from 100 to 109 is getting so many millions of dollars of Social
Right.
Security check. And I'm like,
Right.
ain't nobody, if that, they ain't old. And they still getting the check to the day. And then the next category from 110 to 120 years old, these are supposed to be living human beings
Yeah.
getting Social Security check in the millions of dollars.
Right.
And yet, I don't think it ain't nobody in this country older than 150 years old.
No.
And we're still mailing out checks to people in this country who are 200 years old. Guys, what do you think about that?
You can go ahead and
Well, they had one that was 360 years old. They identified her, Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, that's about right too, bro.
Yeah. But in all fairness, we need to see literally how many Social Security numbers are duplicated and used, and what addresses they go to, and what bank accounts the money's actually going to. Now, they can do these types of searches without necessarily invading anyone's privacy, because it is the job of the Social Security office to do these audits regularly, and obviously they have not.
Well, that's the reason why it was so important that Elon Musk got into this situation as Doge, because he's able to now go in and track all of this stuff down, which we're going to play some clips of the president's speech where he talks about that. And it's really sad, man, that the Democrats sit there all night. But let me play this clip so everybody can know what we're talking about.
Okay.
This is my fifth such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way. So Democrats sitting before me, for just this one night, why not join us in celebrating so many incredible wins for America? For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
He called them out. And there's nothing they can do, because if they do that, then they have to admit to everything wrong that they've done in this country.
Yes.
They have to admit it. They have to participate. And they will not yield.
Mr. Hippie down there, give me your thoughts on that. Look at that. What do you think, Mr. Bink?
They didn't have to say nothing. That's all they needed to put on there. I mean, it's an insult that you can't for what was it, an hour? Well, hour and a half or so.
Almost 2 hours, man.
Why can't you just say, okay, I'm not gonna be a fool on TV,
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's all they proved. They were fools. And what burnt me was that 13-year-old boy fighting cancer. Oh,
yeah.
That right there. Not one of them applauded. Not one of them stood up. Nothing over that 13-year-old kid who's a lot braver than any one of them.
Yeah.
Well, when by you saying that, let me see. I think I can find that piece on here, because I thought that was the tip of the iceberg for me. Let's see. Let's do this playback right quick.
In recent years, our justice system has been turned upside down by radical left lunatics. Many jurisdictions virtually ceased enforcing the law against dangerous repeat offenders while weaponizing law enforcement against political opponents like me. My administration has acted swiftly and decisively to restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law, starting at the FBI and the DOJ. Pam, good luck. Cash, wherever you may be, good luck. Good luck. Pam Bondi, good luck. So important. Going to do a great job. Cash, thank you.
That's my friend, that's my brother right there.
Thank you, Cash.
He's going to straighten the FBI out.
They've already started very strong. They're going to do a fantastic job. You're going to be very proud of them. We're also once again giving our police officers the support, protection, and respect they so dearly deserve. They have to get it. They have such a hard, dangerous job, but we're going to make it less dangerous. The problem is the bad guys don't respect the law, but they're starting to respect it, and they soon will respect it. This also includes our great fire departments throughout the country. Our firemen and women are unbelievable people, and we'll never forget them. And besides that, they voted for me in record numbers, so I have no choice.
Now, I'm going to get a response from you guys while I find this.
Equal and impartial.
Now, your thoughts on that, man? Everybody went for Trump, man. Everybody there, and yet they never spoke or said anything because that situation with that kid was huge. Here it is, right here. Not one Democrat. Look at the Democrats. Not one Democrat is standing up and cheering. This is a kid that survived cancer.
But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago.
All right. Now look at the.
Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Yes. This is great. That's a kid right there. Now, Doc, now let me tell you something.
I mean, it's almost like if you don't tear up over that,
yes.
I don't even know if you're human anymore.
Well, you know what the thing of it is this is a child that has beat cancer. He's still living. They gave him a few months to live. Mm-hmm. So this shows you the character of the man that runs this country. The president of the United States. Joe Biden, the only thing he wanted to do with our children was sniff on them and try to have sex with them. That's all Joe was too busy doing. But I find it very disrespectful. And this is why I'm saying to the American people and patriots, especially Black citizens, watching this show tonight. Look at how the Democratic Party treated not only a child with cancer, but a Black child. You would think that they would be smart enough to understand that this is a child and that they should be glad that the child beat cancer, but instead they sit there and disrespected this child and disrespected this meeting man. I don't see how Black people, after this display of hatred, now, I'm going to take the color off of it. I don't see how any American citizen could belong to the Democratic Party after the hatred that they displayed to one of our citizens' children or a child who's an American citizen. They gave more concern and more care about the immigrant children who were here illegally,
right,
than this young brother. What do you say about that, Mr. Binky?
Well, proof's in the pudding. They showed who they are. They show you what they're about, you know. And this, we ain't talking about the JFK or the RFK, Robert or John Kennedy, no more. Those were the last. Those were the last Democrats, in my view, because at least they would sit there and talk with you, negotiate and compromise. You know,
Right.
Now it's my way or no way, and it's gotten so bad. Like you said, you know, I think they disrespected that little boy, big time.
They did. Doc, your thoughts on this?
Oh, big time. And it, you know, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Yes.
Truly believe them, because they do not care about our children. They definitely do not care about men being in women's sports. You know, they literally voted that day to keep men in women's sports. And he actually honored a young lady there who can no longer play sports because she was injured by a male playing in female sports. And they don't care. They are so bent on blue, no matter who. They do not care about the American people. They are a tyrannical party, period.
Yeah, the retaliation politics right now. Just because.
Well, they're doing everything that they can possibly do right now to try to undermine President Trump's mission to restore this country. I think I got a piece of that. Let me put this
waste
in
of taxpayer dollars. The most talented.
There go Tom Homan.
That's all.
3 years ago, Peyton McNabb was an all-star high school athlete, one of the best, preparing for a future in college sports. But when her girls' volleyball match was invaded by a male, he smashed the ball so hard in Peyton's face, causing traumatic brain injury, partially paralyzing her right side and ending her athletic career. It was a shot like she's never seen before. She's never seen anything like it. Peyton is here tonight in the gallery, and Peyton, from now on, schools will kick the men off the girls' team, or they will lose all federal funding.
And it should be so.
And if you really want to see numbers, just take a look at what happened in the women's boxing, weightlifting, track and field, swimming, or cycling, where a male recently finished a long-distance race 5 hours and 14 minutes ahead of a woman for a new record by 5 hours. Broke the record by 5 hours. It's demeaning for women, and it's very bad for our country. We're not going to put up with it any longer.
Thank you. Now, guys, let's talk about that for a minute. We'll come back. Look at sick Pelosi.
What I have just described is only a small fraction of the common sense revolution that is now, because of us, sweeping the entire world. Common sense has become a common theme, and we will never go back. Never. Never going to let that happen. Among my very highest priorities is to rescue our economy and get dramatic and immediate relief to working families. As you know, we inherited from the last administration an economic catastrophe and an inflation nightmare. Their policies drove up energy prices, pushed up grocery costs, and drove the necessities of life out of reach for millions and millions of Americans. They've never had anything like it. We suffered the worst inflation in 48 years, but perhaps even in the history of our country. They're not sure. As president, I'm fighting every day to reverse this damage and make America affordable again. Yeah.
Now, guys, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the dynamic move when President Trump brought in two genders, when he said there's no third gender in this country anymore. And that right there really killed the transgender move. Your thoughts on that, Doc?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that he did it. You know, as being a female athlete growing up, you know, I did play volleyball. I ran track. I played baseball sometimes with my brother, and I also played football. And I also went out for the football team. And I had the coach respectfully sit me down before we went into gear. Like,
wait a minute.
Most of the players on the team, because you're faster than they are, and you can run the plays. Because I grew up playing football. But what he said to me is, they will physically try to hurt you.
Yes.
Get gear on. He goes, I appreciate everything that you're doing. He goes, you are a dynamic athlete, but I would not want you to be injured. And I was also a varsity cheerleader, so I could cheer them on from the sidelines, which I did. And I had some like, you know what I mean? That was just my life growing up. But I feel so sorry for these girls right now because their spaces are being invaded and they're being taken advantage of. And these young men who are breaking all kinds of records, but see, they couldn't break them against other athletes.
Your
and
thoughts?
That's the thing. They're lesser athletes. They need their own lane.
Go ahead, Mr. Hippie.
Well, you know, like she said, you know, look, there's men and women. That's fact. That's been proven for, you know, they want to talk about exact science and all this, trust the science and all. Okay, we're past that. We know there's a man. We know there's a woman. If you want to be a man today and a woman tomorrow, that's your prerogative. You be you. That's fine. But when it comes down to sports and education and teaching kids, there is reality. And what the Democrats are doing is they're taking reality and twisting it and altering stuff into stuff that don't exist. I mean, I played cop when I played Army. You know, when I was a kid, but in reality, it was just a play. It was a game. And we can't do that with the mentality and these kids growing up and having this stuff stuffed into their heads. They're going to grow up confused. They don't know reality.
Well, and that's so true too. That's why, you know, when you and I first met, Mr. Minky, I was working on the transgender homosexuals that had invaded the schools about 4 or 5 years ago. And we were the first ones to start talking about it because of a situation that was brought to my attention. And the point that I'm making is this: to the American people and patriots across this country in every state, the demolishing of the Board of Education probably was the best thing that President Trump did for us. And now how is it that as parents are having to have laws to get their parental rights back? That doesn't make sense. How is it that a school that you pay taxes, that you got teachers that are unqualified, teaching your children to hate you and telling your children if it's a boy, it's a girl inside of you and vice versa? Kids can't read, they're graduating them, they can't write, especially in the Black community. It's so prevalent. That's why you see, you know, when you don't know nothing but nothing, how can you move forward?
And behind the backs of the parents too.
They use states' rights in a bad way, right? Now, states' rights can be used in a good way if our federal government gets tyrannical and they actually go against our Constitution. And see, that's what people haven't challenged, that
Yes.
the actual state leaders are going against their own Constitution. Everybody has a Constitution in their state, and they can give people more than the law, but they cannot give them less. And the challenge has not been there that they are actually getting less because they are stripping away their parental rights, which has
Yes.
a lot to do with our First Amendment and the right to liberty and freedom. That hasn't been challenged, but it will be.
Well, that's why I'm saying to the American people and patriots across this country, now is the time for us to really stand up to president and challenge all of these things because, we got invaded psychologically with this new woke culture. And it was to the place to where we couldn't even catch our breath because they had COVID going on. People were dropping out like flies. They were trying to do everything that they could to be able to indoctrinate us to just cave in and say, okay, that's fine. But you know what, Mr. Beakey, that was one of the things that when we first got together that we were addressing to as well. It was how the Democrats was weaponizing this health situation and telling parents they couldn't even come to the school anymore. You had a problem with that, didn't you, Bink?
Oh yeah, the parents were going to school board meetings and they were trying to express their displeasure not only over the transgender stuff, but the masks and mandates and putting kids isolated in the rooms and stuff like that. The school boards didn't have they'd escort or arrest the parents for coming in, and that's the job of the parents. The school board government is supposed to listen to us.
Right.
We are the leaders, all of us. We're the kings and queens of this country. And when we go and under the First Amendment, the right to assemble, the right to redress grievances. That's going to a school board meeting is redressing a grievance. You're there complaining, and it's their job to listen to the parents. And that's all been taken away. And we're led to believe because we've let our guard down. We've let government do what they wanted to do. Can I read a real quick?
Go ahead.
This was from Samuel Adams, and it's so it applies. He said, "No people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can they be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. But on the other contrary, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders." What he's saying there is if we lack our knowledge, we're done for. Our liberty was given to us. Our republic was given to us, and we're supposed to keep it. Knowledge is what's going to do that. If we don't know what their job is, they're going to do whatever they want. And now it's to the point where we can't go in and say anything. Our rights have been taken away and altered by them.
Well, you know what? That's the whole thing, and that's why President Trump won in the landslide. Let me play a little bit more of this speech from last night. We want to talk about that because we want to get some time in for Brandon Johnson, who is on the hot seat.
The Arab Sesame Street in the military do a good job.
He said, they mad at Elon Musk. They mad at him. Look at them. They mad, boy.
Thank you, Elon. He's working very hard. He didn't need this. He didn't need this. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Everybody here, even this side, appreciates it, I believe.
They should appreciate it.
They just don't want to admit that. Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender. This is real. $32 million for a left-wing propaganda operation in Moldova. $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. $20 million for the Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. It's a program. $20 million for a program. $1.9 billion to recently created Decarbonization of Homes Committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her? A $3.5 million consulting contract for lavish fish monitoring. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $59 million for illegal alien hotel rooms in New York City. He's a real estate developer. He's done very well. $250,000 to increase vegan local climate action innovation in Zambia. $42 million for social and behavior change in Uganda. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well with learning. I don't know what we're doing. We should use it ourselves. And $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education. The most ever paid, nothing even like it. Under the Trump administration, all of these scams, and they're far worse, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about them. They're so bad. Many more have been found out and exposed and swiftly terminated by a group of very intelligent, mostly young people, headed up by Elon, and we appreciate it. We found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud.
Now, guys, let's talk about that for a minute.
They found the money. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm a paralegal and I've worked with different companies
Get your mic down.
to help them. Oh, sorry. Can you guys hear me now? Sorry about
I
that.
hear you now.
No, I'm saying I'm a paralegal and I've worked with different organizations to help them
Yes.
get government contracts. Now, the one in particular that they're talking about, that $2 billion, that was actually an EPA contract. And I want to say the crust of the contract
Mhm.
was to make sure and ensure in the urban communities that they had access to environmental care. That's pretty much the crust of the grant. And you had to have 20 different companies work along with you in order to get the grant. So when he talks about those 20 companies, there had to be that many because that's what the grant required. She
Yes.
didn't illegally make the companies. That's what the grant required. Now, here's the deal with the grant. It was fluffy. Let's just talk about it. It was fluffy because it really wasn't trying to change much in the community. You just had to state that you would do the work, but it didn't necessarily mean that you had to get the work done. If that makes any sense to anybody. It's like, okay, do this work, but nobody's going to come in and really audit if the work actually got done, if lives were actually improved. There were actually no metrics to meet. It just said that you had to do some work, but it never said, oh, you got to take this from 50 to 90%.
There was no
to prove-
benchmarks.
There were no benchmarks. You just
Yeah.
had to say you'll do the work. And she got $20 billion to do that work. So she didn't do anything wrong. To me, it's just the slush fund of the EPA putting this in progress. But who was that in Congress that allowed it? Oh my gosh, let's go back to Build Back Better. That was a
Yes.
part of that whole
Build
scam
back
that
better.
he's talking about. Yeah.
Mr. Binky, your thoughts?
Sounds like fraud to me. I mean, you know, I'm just an everyday guy, but I mean, it sounds like what Elon Musk has been finding. He's been finding a lot of the ways to the abuse and fraud,
Yeah.
and the Democrats don't like it because they've been doing favors for their friends.
Mm-hmm.
They're what is that, money laundering? Is that
That's what it's called.
I mean, if I had a buku bunch of money and I wanted to help you out, David, but you don't have to do nothing. All I got to do is give you that money because, like Doctor said, there's no accountability.
No.
Well, a lot of the money, and this is why I say I'm meeting later on today with the DOJ, and we're going to discuss some things that need to be discussed here in the state. But we're talking about NGOs, those non-governmental organizations like the Red Cross, Catholic Charities. You're talking about the fraternities and sororities, the Divine Nine, who have been recipients of all of this money. They've been robbing the Black community for the past 15 to 20 years. They are part of the problem. And that's why I'm so glad that President Trump now is using Doge to go in and find where the money is at. And that's why you see these Democrats are kicking back and hollering Maxine Waters, Stacey Abrams, because they've been the recipient of how to steal money, which the money was started being stolen under Barack Obama.
Yeah.
The money was started being stolen under Barack Obama when he allowed Joe Biden to get those documents and sell our secrets to China, when he had him locked up in the garage with his Corvette, because Joe had 20 fake companies. The same way you see the pattern, Stacey Abrams put it into a grant where you had to have these 20 companies so the money could be broke down and each company could be responsible for a certain amount of that money. And no work was done. Go ahead, Doc.
But like I'm saying, it was put in place by the EPA. The EPA, they were just following the guidelines of Build Back Better. Like I said, the scam goes all the way up to the top.
Right.
It goes all the way up to the top, and how they disseminated it. And it's interesting that she would even apply for it. Not that it's a conflict of interest, because obviously she's not a governor. She's not in a political position right now. But I just find it interesting how she was awarded that contract. That's all I'm saying.
Well, they had gold bars missing, that she got some gold bars, the Democratic guy that was where was he, New York, when they caught him in the house with all the money and a couple of gold bars. See, it is so much stuff that the Democrats did under Barack Obama. And then the last term that he had with Joe Biden, man, they just basically just came out with nothing else to lose but to put it in our face, because they thought that they were going to be able to steal another election. But that turned out not to be true. And now everything that they've done, because I heard George Soros say, if Trump gets back into office, he's going to roll back all the stuff we've been doing for the last 20 years.
Well, let me throw this at you, Dave. EPA, Department of Education, FDA. We're talking about these agencies that governments created for themselves over decades. These are agencies that aren't in the Constitution to begin with.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
what government's done is they've expanded their powers, which violates states' rights.
Right.
And then they enrich themselves. They're getting rich. They're getting great pay. They're getting benefits. They're getting pensions. I mean, what is it? A senator, a House of House of Representatives, after 5 years, they get a full pension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You still got to work. 55 years that I've been able in my life has gone to work, and I can't stop working. I can't afford it. But they live in high off the hog. They've got everything. That's not how government's supposed to be.
No.
And
No.
that's what we need to fix. I apologize for you.
No,
Yeah.
no.
You're
See,
fine.
but the thing of it is that how that they resonate. This is how the Democrats operate. they come into office and they acting like that they represent the poor. We are representing the poor people, the people, the common day, everyday people. We're going to represent you. Republicans believe that if you ain't rich and you ain't got money, you can't be part of the party. And so what the Democrats did after all the stuff that they did to the Black community, they should have been paying reparations, but they gained the trust of a lot of Black folks because my grandmama voted, my auntie voted, and through that attrition of time, they were able to get power and gain power and start changing things. But to the American people and patriots across this country, especially Black citizens who've been voting Democrat for years, that was the biggest fear in this election coming up. Would Black people actually wake up and see it is the Democratic Party that was destroying us? And so Black people, to the Black Americans across this country, when you see what you saw last night in the White House, that every Democrat that didn't give a crap about that little boy, that little Black boy who was sitting there fighting for cancer. Let's take the color away. That American child who was sitting there who beat cancer, who the president had enough character to say, you know what, if this was my child, let's make this happen. Not one Democrat even stood up. Not one clap. Not one said nothing to the American people and patriots across this country. That shows you that the Democratic Party is against this country, and we need to remove them. They need to be disbanded because all the stuff that President Trump is talking about that he is having to fix right now all came under the Democratic leadership. I'm going to play a little bit more of this tape, and we're going to talk about it before we get out of here.
All right.
Look at them. They ain't no look at them. Look at that. That's so un-American.
The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president. Thank you. Joe Biden didn't just open our borders, he flew illegal aliens over them to overwhelm our schools, hospitals, and communities throughout the country. Entire towns like Aurora, Colorado, and Springfield, Ohio, buckled under the weight of the migrant occupation and corruption like nobody's ever seen before. Beautiful towns destroyed. Now, just as I promised in my inaugural address, we are achieving the great liberation of America. But there still is much work to be done. Here tonight is a woman I have gotten to know, Alexis Nungari from Houston. Wonderful woman. Last June, Alexis's 12-year-old daughter, her precious Jocelyn, walked to a nearby convenience store. She was kidnapped, tied up, assaulted for 2 hours under a bridge, and horrifically murdered. Arrested and charged with this heinous crime are 2 illegal alien monsters from Venezuela, released into America by the last administration through their ridiculous open border. The death of this beautiful 12-year-old girl and the agony of her mother and family touched our entire nation greatly. Alexis, I promised that we would always remember your daughter, your magnificent daughter, and earlier tonight I signed an order keeping my word to you. One thing I have learned about Jocelyn is that she loved animals so much. She loved nature. Across Galveston Bay, from where Jocelyn lived in Houston, you will find a magnificent national wildlife refuge, a pristine, peaceful, 34,000-acre sanctuary for all of God's creatures on the edge of the Gulf of America. Alexis, moments ago, I formally renamed that refuge in loving memory of your beautiful daughter, Jocelyn. So, Mr. Vice President, if you would, may I have the order?
Yes. Tom Holman.
Yeah, baby.
Thank you very much. All three savages charged with Jocelyn and Lakin's murders were members of the Venezuelan prison gang, the toughest gang, they say, in the world, known as Tren de Aragua. 2 weeks ago, I officially designated this gang, along with MS-13 and the bloodthirsty Mexican drug cartels, as foreign terrorist organizations.
Now hold up right there. Now, let's talk about that. You can see that from the borders right now that in less than 6 weeks, he has closed the borders, and there was 8,036 people who have tried to get in 1 month.
Yeah.
Since President Trump been in office. When Joe Biden was in office, it was over 300,000 a month that was coming in our borders. 300,000 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to the American people and patriots, this only shows you with them sitting there like the way that your thoughts on that, Doc?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that he designated these individuals as terrorists. So now we can actually send our military after them. See, before they were basically thugs and criminals, which you cannot necessarily make your military go after them because they're not a military threat. Now they are a military threat. So that means Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, anyone that we have in our military, they can go after them and they can hunt them down and be done with it. Navy SEALs, everybody. And I'm so glad that he's done that.
Mr. Hippie, your thoughts?
Well, knowledge is power. And I get a lot of my knowledge. If you want to understand what the Democratic Party is all about, this book's over 105 years old. This wasn't created overnight. If you want to understand what the Democratic Party is about, you find that book, and you'll figure it out real quick. Just like Doctor said, you can't add to that. I mean, it's getting old. We've got laws in this to protect the people of this country, all people. And when you have open borders like that, you don't know who's coming in. Disease goes up, crime,
Yes.
everything.
Measles.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And that's probably this is a rude awakening, and this should be a rude awakening to the American people to see how the Democratic Party implemented all these things against us. And now President Trump is working his butt off trying to get things back to normal, to the way they used to be. I mean, that's, what he has done in 6 weeks. He has done more in these past 6 weeks than the past 12 years under the Democratic leadership that we've seen, and for the fact of the matter is, with the 2 wars and all the stuff we've seen, how is it possible? Well, I guess he did say it. He said they changed the leadership and got a new president.
Well, I'm disappointed he hasn't cured cancer yet.
Right? Like, when's that happening? Well, technically,
I heard it was cured already.
It actually is cured, but they keep using gain of function to make it spreadable, because they're saying you need to have a vaccine to make sure you don't get cancer. And I'm like, okay, if it's viral, then that means it can spread. So is it a disease or is it a virus? Which is it? And it's very confusing what they're doing in the medical community, which I'm very grateful that RFK is
Yes,
engaged.
yes, I'm glad that RK is in there because he's not going to allow them to just give vaccines out to anybody the way that the last health director did. I mean, she went along with COVID and never questioned and shut anybody else down who had a antidote that could have helped. So it's the country has a different feel for me right now. I feel the freedoms that we had before we went into this whole woke culture thing.
Right.
For me as a pastor, it has been a dark cloud around America. You know, when we went against God and we instituted the transgender world and we allowed this to happen, and we allowed it to happen because we went to sleep because every time somebody would say something against the LGBT XYZ, then they tried to deem them as you homophobic. No, no. People just used to having their rights, and the way they took away our rights was just totally crazy.
Well,
Doc,
you know what I think, Dave?
yes, sir.
Government's trying to replace God. You know,
Yes,
they're trying to come in and tell us what's best for us to eat.
Yeah.
They're coming in and tell us what's best to put in our bodies as far as vaccines and so on and so forth. I think that's the biggest problem is government needs to go back being the government they're supposed to be instead of trying to play God and choosing our personal autonomy for us.
Right. Very true.
yep,
Very,
yep. You know, and that right there, man, has been the biggest stickler for us as pastors, and it should be because God first. You give honor to God with everything that you do, because you don't have to wake up in the morning time. It's a blessing that you open your eyes and God allow you to do that. So how can you come against the Creator? Well, time on the wall said we gotta get out of here. Bink, your last words before you get out of here, man. I
Well,
enjoyed you, man. You got to come anytime, man.
I'm glad to have met Doctor here, and you guys been doing. I watch your shows all the time. You guys don't need me. Let me put it that way.
Well, we enjoyed you being on the scene with us. So anytime you want to, brother, let me know, and it is yours. Thanks for coming in.
thank you.
Doc, your last words before we get out of here.
Okay, well, to anybody that watched last night, I hope that you took some good things away because nobody's perfect. I'm not looking at President Trump as our Lord and Savior or, our saving grace. But what has happened is my prayers have been answered and God has given us a reprieve. He's given us time to actually work things out. And that means getting off the couch. That means getting
Yes.
involved. And so please check out usaredemptionparty.com. We are looking for candidates to be servants of the people, not politicians. And we're also looking for individuals to join to be members of our party to support those candidates in their effort to truly save our country. And so again, check out usaredemptionparty.com.
And Doc, I want to thank you for coming in here. We got another show to do tomorrow because we got to discuss Brandon Johnson, what happened to him at the Hill, and we'll do that. So thank you so much. Have a great evening. We'll talk soon. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to the show. It's always good to sit before you and bring proof to what's going on. These are my last words. What we saw with the State of the Union last night was treasonous by the Democratic Party. To the American people and patriots across this country, listen to me closely. Now that we see President Trump, who is fixing our country, who's returning things back to be normal again, giving rights back to the parents over their children, removing all the transgender stuff out, the girls, women's sports, getting our economy back on track. What he has done in the past 6 weeks, it has been much more than what the Democrats have done. What he's doing by ending these wars, which the Democrats created, and using Elon Musk to find taxpayer dollars, where our money have been going to. When he read off all of those ridiculous trillions of dollars being given to people in places that are not even American citizens, just think, the $59 million that they sent to the illegal migrants who are here in our country illegally, we could have took $59 million and wiped homelessness out in the United States. to the American people and patriots across this country. It's time for us to disband the Democratic Party. And just like President Trump said, we need to put things and safeguards in place so that they can never, ever again do what they did and try to destroy this country and create communism in a republic. God bless y'all. We'll see y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all come on in and enjoy your evening. You're listening to Let the Truth Be Told.